Thank you. Given that the phrase "from the river to the sea" has been deemed anti-Semitic, and any criticism of Israel, that's the state, not the Jewish people themselves, gets called out as being anti-Semitic, even when Jewish people do it. And this week, just being in possession of an Irish accent means you can be accused of being anti-Semitic. Can we trust our legislators with the new anti-vilification laws that they are proposed to not misuse them, especially given the way we actually managed to not look after our whistleblowers?
Yeah, and you're referring to laws, for those who aren't across it, that the Albanese government is proposing on anti-vilification. We don't know the detail yet, but they will be pretty strong laws, they say, to deal with racism and discrimination on the basis of religion. So obviously there's going to be a strong debate, Alisa, about what that looks like and so forth. But terms like river to the sea are very inflammatory. They're used... You might not see it as inflammatory, but many people say that they are to them, and that's how they hear it.
But Jewish people also use them.
And some Jewish people object to them, right? So that's the point.
But how it's anti-Semitic is the question. Is it?
Well, I'll put that to the panel. It's an interesting question, but it is contested space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the Australian context well enough to make any far-reaching claims. I think, as a journalist, I'm always suspicious of any kind of government regulations. They try to tell what should be said
exactly,
and what should not be said.
If you are going to create a problem around the word intifada, I used the word fight earlier. Now, the word fight has a lot of associations. When you say you're going to fight for your rights, you can mean that you're going to take up a petition, or you're going to campaign, or it can mean that you're going to start punching people out, or it can mean that you're going to pick up a gun, right? Fight can mean all those things. Are they going to ban the word fight on university campuses? Intifada is a word that means, well, literally it means to shake off.
Yeah, but it has a particular memory for people in Israel.
That may be, but it has a particular memory for Palestinians as well, which is of civil disobedience, of strikes.
But Jewish people remember it in a very specific way, in the form of suicide bombings and deaths in Israel. I mean, that's a real experience, and they've made that quite clear. So we need to be aware of that. But you are going to
forbid the word on that basis? You're going to forbid the word on that basis.
I'm not forbidding anything.
No, but I mean,
having a good discussion.
But if the government moves to do that, if it makes one community's view on a word the metric, one community that here enjoys more political power than the Arab community does at the moment, where does that end precisely? And can I just say about the river to the sea, because this is very important. This is very important. I will say this about the river to the sea. The river to the sea is about geography, OK? It's about the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, OK? Now, between those two geographical features at the moment, what we have is a Jewish supremacy. It's a regime of Jewish supremacy. That's what we have right now. Freedom...
Well, it's the Israeli state.
Well, no, it's not the Israeli state, because in the occupied territories, the Israeli state is suspended. It's a military occupation. So it's a Jewish supremacy from one side to the other, a state that privileges Jewish existence over Arab existence. Now, the freedom, Palestine shall be free. We call that geography Palestine, and lots of people call that geography Palestine. It wasn't contentious. It's been in the English language for hundreds of years, right? We call that geography Palestine. Between the river and the sea, Palestine will be free. Freedom is not a political arrangement. Freedom is a human condition. But not only that, it's an essential precondition for any political arrangement you care to name, whether it's a one-state solution, a two-state solution, John Bolton's three-state solution, Shimon Peres's confederation with Jordan. Any of these arrangements, first to be entered into, the people undertaking them have to be free. This is what Nelson Mandela said. He said, prisoners cannot negotiate, only free men can enter into contracts.
But I've got to interrupt, because the chant does not talk about everyone and equal rights.
It says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Yeah, so it refers to one state, does it not?
It refers to a geography and freedom within that geography.
All right. Deborah, obviously you know that many Jewish people have expressed, certainly in this country, I have heard them, we've had them on the panel, I've countless times that when they hear that term, they hear it as a genocidal statement. That's how they hear it.
Yes.
And, well, they have a right to also express how they hear it. Given that's their experience, and we do try to listen to each other in this country, but probably, you know, with varied success, is it something that we should reconsider?
We're no strangers to genocide here in Australia. I'm the great-granddaughter of a man who returned to his family camp to see his entire family massacred. You know, it's a really slippery slope. From the river to the sea, let's ban that. How about always was, always will be?
Indeed.
Aboriginal people don't come out on a very good side of the law in this country. So once that's in place, it will be used against Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
So I'm not in favour.
And this is a very important point, because always will be Aboriginal land. If you're a member of, let's say, I don't know, the Nationals, you might hear it as, my sovereignty in this country as an Australian is under threat. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. That's a question mark over the sovereignty of this country, is it not?
Well, that's already happening. The Nationals have banned any more expenditure on acknowledgements
the Victorian State Nationals in opposition have just passed a motion.
Yes.
Just clarifying the details, because they're not actually in government, but that's what they've suggested.
No, they're not.
But when you say always was, always will be Aboriginal land, right, you are saying there is a question mark over the sovereignty of this country.
Well, Abdulrazak, there are questions, though, around the language we use. We constantly have debates around language that's acceptable when we're talking about questions of race, gender, sexuality, because the legislation, can I say, we're talking about anti-Semitism, but it's going to be more far-reaching for those. We just haven't had the other parts of the discussion yet. Should there be limits on speech?
Well, you have to start a little further back, as I see it. When an idea, which is not necessarily anti-libertarian, but rather protective of, let's say, minorities, when that is hijacked by people who make out, it seems to me, to be more sensitive than they need to be about words, what they're losing is the way such a law is actually necessary to protect those who are actually otherwise not protected. For example, when such a law was introduced in the UK, say, the Race Relations Act in the 1960s, it was still possible, before that law came in, for important people to stand up, important in the sense that they have an audience, a national audience maybe, or in any case an audience large, to stand up and say quite obnoxious and cruel and, in many respects, provocative things, provoking other citizens into aggression, and to not be reprimanded or to be stopped or to be accused of anything. But after that law came into being, with a lot of protests from many different areas, then this became something criminal. You could be prosecuted for doing that. And so we don't have that language anymore. Whatever people say when they're at home or behind, in their own private spaces, they can't stand up and publicly announce aggressive, nasty, mean things about other people, or indeed women, or indeed for people of different sexual orientations, and so on. So in itself, the idea, the rationale for it, it doesn't seem to me to be necessarily anti-libertarian. It's what use is put to, and how much control can be put on it. So when people get upset about from the river to the sea and say this is anti-Semitic, this is a kind of nonsense that then makes those kinds of laws authoritarian. So the balance is not in not having one at all, but in having one so that you can use it in a sensible way and not have it, as it were, possible to be hijacked by anybody who says, I'm too sensitive. This upsets me.
Can I just say one more small thing about Intifada? If you go onto the website of the US Holocaust Museum and you look up the page on the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the US Holocaust Museum has mirror websites in other languages, including Arabic. And on the Arabic website, the translation of Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is Intifadat al-Hayy al-Yahudi fi Warsaw. The Intifada of the Jewish Quarter in Warsaw. That's what it's called. If you outlaw the word intifada and say it's hate speech, they're going to have to fix their website.
There's no doubt that the word means something else, but it also has a particular memory in Israel, and that was the question,
The word's associations cannot be... A word cannot be banned because of its associations. It can't.